Altos, alto power. Altos, hello, hello. I just came from a sectional with all of the sopranos. It was incredible to see all of them. They showed up en masse, but so far you should know, I think there are more of you here than there were in the soprano sectional. Yeah, sorry, I was a little bit late. So altos, we've got a lot of music making to do. And what I'd like to do is we're going to start with just a quick warm up here, kind of activate all of that lower warm singing register. And to do that, I'm asking my wife, Laurence Servaz, who's a professional soprano. She's going to come in and just warm us up for a few minutes. So without further ado, altos, Laurence Servaz. Hey baby.
Like we did before, we warmed up with just moving the shoulders in a yogi style. And you can always do this before you start singing anyway. It feels really great, you know, just however feels right. And I also always just stretch out the neck a little bit. You can do it however you feel like today, what you need. So you can always do this before you start singing, and just to open up a little and just to be loose. Altos. Altos. So for me, this is all going to sound really chesty. I will repeat to that. Definitely. Let's get it going. Yeah.
Sorry.
This is the best. I'm discovering things I never knew about my husband.
Yeah, I wish I were an alto.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that's perfect. And it's a perfect warm up. Thank you, baby. Laurence, everybody. Thank you, beautiful. So altos, I've asked Laurence if she'd be game for doing some more of these kinds of things later on, either some just vocal workshops and warm-ups. Also, she's a real expert besides opera in art song, which is my favorite. And so maybe she'll get in and do something, just talking about art song and leading us, talking about the mechanics of singing and text. And she speaks all the languages. So I just think it'd be super fun for me. So maybe it's selfish. I want to see her do it. Anyway, altos, welcome. Where to begin? For all of you who were in the kind of the general session that we did, was it yesterday that we did that, baby? It was yesterday that we did the general session?
Yes.
I don't know about any of you. The days have just, I don't even know what day it is anymore. I saw a meme the other day that said, pajamas to my nighttime pajamas. That's how it feels. It's these days are just blurring into each other. But one of the things that I said, which seemed to resonate with a few of the altos, is that altos are by far my favorite voice part. Don't tell the other parts this, okay, altos? And I was saying that sopranos, they always get the melody. Tenors get all the glory. Basses really don't care one way or another. But altos, for some reason, altos are always the smartest and the earthiest. I just love the alto sensibility. And as a composer, I always try to give my favorite lines to the altos. I feel like in general, altos always get the leftovers. Altos get what the sopranos have at the beginning here. Right? That's a classic alto line. Except the classic alto line then would be like, right, just filling in chords. So altos throughout the piece, I tried to give you just all the fun stuff. Sometimes it's not so super interesting, but I think when it's put in context of the other parts, you get to kind of bump against the sopranos here and bump against the tenors here and weave and bob a little bit. And it's also at the beginning here, you start with the melody. All right, so just looking at this real quick, altos, and for those of you who weren't in the session yesterday, the way that I constructed the whole piece, this is for everybody, it's in 3/4 very intentionally, because there's this musical idea of lean in on the first beat and kind of lean back on the second beat. So everything is 1, 2, 3. So push, pull, 3. This for me was a musical representation of compassion and empathy, which is ultimately what I'm hoping we can communicate to the audience, to the people that hear this. So even as you sing your line here, altos, you'll push, pull, 2, push, pull, push, pull. See how that works? That holds true for the entire piece. On beat 1 is a little, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but just a little lean back, lean back. So altos, let's just sing this first phrase, shall we? Starting in measure 5. Here we go. 3 or 2, 3, go. Good. So let's talk about just this for a moment, the altos. First, you won't really be able to hear it. You can hear it, of course, on the guide tracks when you record your part. But imagine if you can that you're in the middle of a choir and you've got all of these sopranos singing with you. So that when you sing that first sing, you get that, see how they're holding the G and you come down to the F sharp, so that we... To me, those are my favorite things, those little knife turns. As a composer, what I use the dissonances for a lot of different reasons, but in this case, this is the kind of thing that I'm visualizing, that I'm chipping away at the breastplate. That really what we're trying to do is kind of open up the chest plate so that we can get directly to the listener's heart. And then each one of these just opens a little. And so as you sing it, try to imagine that G with you, and then you get that beautiful rub against the G. Then, even though it's not written in measure 12, I think there's a little bit of an implied crescendo there, altos, so that we sing, and it's going to crescendo to, and the idea here, altos, is it's partly crescendo, but really what you're doing is setting up the breath on beat one, because you want to take a breath that's full and kind of launches us to this new phrase, so that we get 1, 2, 3. Then here 2, 3, 1. Yes. Okay. So a quick technical question is where we are going to breathe in here. May our singing be music, and let's put a little rest between music and the word and. So technically, we'll make that kind of an and on the and of 2, and then and may it keep. If you need to take a breath down here at the bottom of 3, find an elegant place to take it. It's okay. Take it wherever you need to. I prefer it sound like we don't take a breath there. But if you need to jump out for a minute, just make sure that you don't use any of the consonants. So if it's keep, that P at the end, or others, aloft, then what you want to do is if you have to jump out, right? You don't really hear the P at all. So that we don't hear any of that break. You just jump out elegantly and then jump back in, catch a little bit of a breath. Last thing that I want you to think about is that when we sing the word music, you're going to kind of, it's another implied crescendo across the bar line. And that kind of launches us to this next little bit. Let's sing from measure 11, shall we? On soft. 2, 3. 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 1, and now 1, 2, 3, and the slightest, the most gentle, soft, just let that go, release that very gently. Baby, are you looking at questions or people asking any
People are
questions?
asking me about measure 48, but we're not there, and I have no idea what happens there.
Okay.
Get to it.
Alto, so Laurence is looking at the questions because they're flying by on my screen. But you're asking about measure 48. I promise when we get there, we'll address it. Okay, Altos? So now going on page 4, this is what I call the hook. Hook, in pop music it's usually the name of the song. It's the part that you always remember, and it repeats a couple of times. It's not that this is a pop song, but for me, I like the idea of a hook because this is the essential message that we're trying to communicate to the audience. This is the whole thing right here. Sing gently. And for me, this is perfect prime alto melody. The sopranos are doubling you, which as a composer is one of my favorite things to do, is have altos and sopranos all singing in unison. It gets that beautiful, milky, honey-like tone. But really, this is all about the altos here. So altos, I want you to embrace the idea of the pianissimo there. Yeah, the PP there. Super gentle, even as you're recording it. We want the color of soft singing. And what we'll do is we'll sing 2, 3. Then push, pull, push, pull. Then breath. 1, 2. Let's take another breath and through. So altos. No, let's take that back. Let's not take a breath between sing and as. Okay, so what you'll do, sopranos or altos, sorry, is sing as one, nice crescendo, and then through 2, 3. Good. And then in 29, see where that diminuendo is? That's very important, altos, because sopranos and altos, you both got that. And the idea is you're going to kind of come away from nothing while as the tenors and basses kind of blossom open, right? So it's important for us to fade to the back there so that they can then take center stage. Then this is one of my favorite things to do as a composer, altos, which is they get this thing where they start, right? So to me, that's probably all the cellos, maybe doubled by horns, maybe bassoons. It's this rich, warm sound. But then altos, when you come in, you're the violas, that warm, like woody sound that the violas get. I love that line because I find that it kind of gives you this whole thing. There's a place to go. You go up, and really, what you're doing, if you think about it this way, is you're going to launch the sopranos. This is how I think about it as a composer. So you sing, starting there at "May We Stand," 1, and then the sopranos come in and they take your note. So really, if you, instead of thinking as "May we stand," instead of just thinking you're going to that G, think of the stand all, that what you're going to do is kind of launch the sopranos there, give them this kinetic energy. So let's sing from there, shall we? Altos, let's sing all the way to the end of page 5 and just see how that feels.
Just see.
Baby,
where are you at?
right here. Any questions so far?
There appears to be a typo in measure 27 as 1 or just 1?
No, it should just be 1, just the word 1. So that's not a typo, altos. So in 27, you'll sing 1 and then repeat the word 1 more time. Yeah. The only reason the basses have as 1 there is because they haven't said the words as 1 yet. But everybody else at one point has said as 1, 1 is the idea. Okay. So let's sing from 28, 29, measure 30 altos. You ready? And go. And launch. Nice crescendo here. 1, 2, and sing. Oh, I love that. Altos, I love how you get the, right? Because what's happening, the sopranos above you are singing. Oh, it's so nice. So for me, the sopranos will all think they've just got the sweeping melody. Yeah. Let them have that. We've got that, which is just so much more satisfying, I find. All right, so altos, if you need to take a breath in there, starting in measure 37, what we'll do is we'll definitely take a breath at the end of the word singing. So between beats 2 and 3 in measure 40. And then if you need to catch a breath in 41 or 42, same thing as before. Catch it, but just make sure that you don't use the consonant, especially if you're going to sing. Always sing along. Do you hear those S's in there? Always sing. You hear how much that is? So ideally, always sing along. You just barely touch the S. I remember my mentor, the choir director, David Weiler, who teaches at University of Nevada, Las Vegas, he used to always have this trick, which was you just let your jaw drop when you go to sing that S. Always. You can't possibly do S. And we want no parcel tongue. No parcel tongue pa, please. Can we sing from May We Hear? This, so measure 37. You ready, altos? And go. Two, three, 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Okay.
Some people are asking about the range, if the range is slightly too high because of the E vowel in measure 39 singing. What I was doing with the sopranos before is for the E vowel to not close the mouth too much. You can't do E, but if you go over the C, you should modify that E vowel a little bit So get more of a sound in there. So what that means, can I?
Please. Go ahead.
Do these exercises, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, re, do, si, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, and open up. You see, the jaws should just drop. So also here, you just open up. So that should help.
Yeah, that's amazing, amazing. Thank you, baby. And if there are any of you altos out there who just don't have that note, that D, that's a fairly high note for some altos. Then what you can also do is in measure 39, just drop down to the tenor line for that bar, right? So altos, you could sing from may we, from 1, 2, then jump back up. See how that works? You can just drop down to the tenor line for that one note if that D just isn't going to happen for you.
A lot of people are also asking, is it singing or singing?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so this one's really important, altos. We're always going to keep it open. So you can even hear if I do it. If I close to that NG, we lose all of our power. And this is the climax of the piece in terms of dynamics. So we need to sing. It's got to stay open the entire time. Singing. Then that's when we finally close. But we keep a beautiful vowel. Ideally, when it comes to choral singing, to singing in a choir, and I think classical singing in general, most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, we're thinking about singing the vowels. In fact, I'd say most of choral singing is a river of vowels, with the consonants being like a stone skipping across the top of a placid lake. But it's really all about those vowels, all about those open vowels. Good. So now on page 6, we get to the second time that we do the hook. And remember the first time when we had this, we sang softly, pianissimo. I would say this can be even more intimate. Ideally, what we've done by this point in the performance is we've softened the audience, right? We spent that time with those dissonances in the beginning and the words kind of opening their heart to this message. Then we introduced this idea of sing gently. Okay, now that idea has been planted. Then that second bar that we just went through, we kind of open it back up. We get to the musical climax of the piece. Then we bring it back down. And now this is where we give them the real message. This is as intimate as we can be with them. So here, push, pull. And I want you to look at one thing here, altos. In 46, different than you had the last time, you're just going to hold that note, right? So you sing, 2, 3, sing, 2, 3. Now, if you take a look what's happening above you in that measure at the sopranos, they still have the melody, right? So what we get, the two voices combined, you hold that A and they go up. So together you go, sing, 2, then. Hear that? For me, this is one of those moments, and the basses and tenors, they fill out that chord underneath you. So this is that moment, if you're anything like me, that if we were all together in the same room singing this, that's one of those moments that just sends chills down your spine, that second together. But because you'll be singing it alone in your room, I want you to think about the way you're going to rub against that soprano note. So even though it's soft and delicate, think about just the purity of that tone as we sing that A. Then push, push, and now we start to warm it up. 1, 2, 3, bum, bum. Good. So altos here, we'll take breaths just as written in 49, in 50. And I want you to look out for something here, which is that when we sing in 51, so what we've done now is we've spent the piece, I think this is the third time we get this gesture where the sopranos are going, and they sing just a scale, right? But now we really have the fun bit, which is we sing with them up to here, and then we break away so that B that's on the word as in 52, let's really lean into that. Same thing here. Then we just soar. Breath. 1, 2. Now we start to cool it a little bit. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Then so good. Let's talk about this last little moment here. So you see how it's written. Basically, the dynamics just follow where you are in your register. When you're in the meat of your register there, nice and full. And then as we get into measure 59, we'll start to cool it as we bring it down. 2, 3, a little more intimate. Then notice on beat 3 or altos, you're the only ones who sing the word sing. So that S will be strong. It's going to kind of cut through the texture there. And also it's leading us to this new phrase, sing gently as one, their final phrase. And so that's a very important note for you there. Lean into that a little bit. And you'll sing 1, 2, and then what we're doing compositionally here is see how the sopranos have gently as one, just like the beginning where they've got all those G's. So what you're gonna, as you come up the scale, starting on sing, 1, 2, sing, so the idea there compositionally is that there's this rub, and then you're one. You've actually kind of bonded together for the first time, like there, right? Boom. And then what's happening is the tenors are also on that G, the bass is on that last chord. So in one, because we're in unison, and even the piano, the left hand, and then only the right hand of the piano. That third, that golden glue that kind of binds all of us together in that moment. One last thing I'd love to say, altos, is any of you who have ever worked with me live know that I love diction. I love poetry and singing the words as if they're a ripe fruit. I'm always doing this when I'm conducting. My wife calls it the octopus because I'm always doing this. But really what for me is it's like a ripe fruit, just you bite into it, this kind of thing. And here's the perfect place for this is that you've got the word gently. Gently, it's such a nice consonant. So that we sing gently, 1, 2, sing, then G. Then the final note, there's this question about when do we close to N on 1? All right, it's a good question. So I'm not so concerned about exactly where it happens in the beat. Basically, it's going to happen around the very last bar. So somewhere like that. But more important to me is that we close very, very gradually. So instead of singing 1, closing to the end, what we want is 1. And the reason that it's not so important for me that it happened exactly all at the same moment with the other singers is because when we have all of the thousands of our voices together, it'll be beautiful to have it happen at different times. And then it becomes this. If I were conducting this live, I would intentionally confuse the choir. And what I mean by that is I would probably give them this thing and just go. I do something where it was kind of unclear, and I would force the unclearness to kind of to give us that random sound, which then the random closing actually is more beautiful than all of us doing it right together. I hope that makes sense. Altos, we're out of time. I feel like we could do this for another hour. Maybe we'll do another one of these. I can't see any of your faces. I can see your comments going, but altos, I'm telling you, I can feel your energy through the computer. Alto power. Altos for the win. Altos, if you have any questions or any feedback, you can leave it here on the YouTube channel or on any of my social media channels. Just throw it up there. We'll be reading all of the comments either from Laurence or myself. Beautiful work. And I'm just so humbled by all of the passion and the intensity that you're bringing to all of this. You know, it's so strange what we're all doing, sitting alone in front of our computers, doing this kind of thing. And by your questions, by the videos that I've seen so far, I can just see how important it is that you get it right to yourselves, that you've taken it into your heart. And I have to tell you, as a composer, there's nothing more humbling or more gratifying than this idea that I sat at my little piano here and I wrote a few notes, and then you've all taken it into your hearts and your brains and your spirits and are bringing it to life. Each person on their own really means everything to me. Baby, come say goodbye. Yeah. So from Laurence and I, take care, Altos. Be well, and yeah, we'll see you at the next rehearsal. Okay.